Mario?
Mario, would you turn the lights off, please?
Sure. Or Judith?
Yeah, Judith, that'll work, thank you. That'll work, there we go.
Oh, this one.
No, that's okay. You ready? Yeah. Here we go.
And I know that God is in this place, in the vibrations of the heart bowl, in the sounds of water brewing, in the breathing in and out. I know that whatever God is all that there is. So God is in this place, made manifest all around us, as us, in us, is us now. And I know that we come together this night to open our awareness to the presence of the divine showing up as us. There is only one. We open up our awareness to our connection with not only spirit, but spirit as every person, every place, everything, every moment, every where, every when. We open up our awareness to that greater reality that is more true for us than that which is around us. We open up our awareness. And we breathe it in. And we let it flow. And we know that we get whatever it is we need to get out of this class. We understand whatever is ours to understand. And we take these ideas and bring them forth into our lives, manifesting our health, our prosperity, our love and joy, and our success. That is the truth of who we are, always has been, always will be. So with great, great gratitude and thanksgiving, we simply let this go as together we say, and so it is. Thank you for the heart bowl.
You're welcome.
It's lovely.
I like it.
Yes, 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 yes. So welcome, welcome. How many of you are here tonight for the first time? Great. To this class. I was trying not to say how many were not here last week. How many are here for the first time tonight to this class? Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to grab your book, Julia. This is a book on the art of spiritual mind treatment. We are using John's book, 5 Steps to Freedom. There are a bunch of them on the shelf in the bookstore, and I'm sure someone will open up the bookstore if you want to buy it. There is homework every week out of the book, and if you want to, you can get John to sign yours for you. That's what he does when he's in other places. He's a big shot, and he goes in and he signs things, and he gives workshops and lectures and coaches people and all of that. So wonderful, wonderful. Last week, what did we talk about? The 5 steps of treatment. What, Breezy?
I was just going to say the one they especially worked on was the recognition one.
We worked on the recognition step. What else did we talk about last week? Remember we talked about there was a bargaining and a beseeching and a deal. Types of prayer that people do. That there are ways that a lot of people pray that is not like what we're learning here. And it is, let's make a deal with God. If you do this, I'll do that. And, oh, please, I'm so sorry, I'll never do that again. So please do this kind of thing. Maybe you've been in that position in your life. And sure enough, people go back on that because it's not true to their nature. What we do is we move into a consciousness of knowing that which already is. We move into a consciousness of what in Christianity they're calling more and more a believing prayer instead of a beseeching or asking or begging or deal working prayer. And to do that, there are certain steps that move us into a certain consciousness. And that's the process that we are involved in this class. And this is different. Some of you may have been in other classes where we knocked out spiritual mind treatment in a week, and we didn't really have an opportunity to explore the depths of spiritual mind treatment. And spiritual mind treatment is what we do at Centers for Spiritual Living. It is the technique that is what we do to bring science of mind into our lives. And so I'm delighted that we have a big, long time for this class, that we can use it to really practice and get into the individual steps so that we can move our consciousness along a certain path. Because when something is happening that you don't want it to happen, and you need to believe that that's not happening, that what you want to have happen is happening, and it's already happened now, sometimes that's tricky. And so being able to practice this and know how to move ourselves into the area that we want to be in, so that as within, so without, spiritual law is set in motion, and that which we are thinking about and believing comes into form. So it's a good practice for us to explore the different steps of treatment and the process of doing spiritual mind treatment. And I'm so glad you're here tonight.
I'm so glad to be here.
Because John really is the expert in this field.
Thank
Yay!
you for thinking.
I do, but I like you a lot, you know.
I have 13 different translations of the second commandment.
What's the second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the things that I say all the time, and it took me many years to say this, is I know that God is in this place. I taught these teachings for years without ever using that 3-letter word, God. Because I had a lot of issues on the guy up in the cloud that didn't like me, never had, never would. And I didn't want to bring that into my consciousness or my teachings. So I want to start off by asking you, what do you think of when you hear that word? You're right? You're an excellent writer. Becca?
I actually have fond memories of growing up.
Bless you.
I know I'm a rare one, but even still, when I use the 3-letter word God, I automatically have a duality.
Yes.
I have to, yes. I don't have to. I have found for me it's easier doing treatments to either say Creator or Great Spirit or One Spirit. The minute I use the 3-letter word God, I can't keep my subconscious from going.
Okay, so you move into duality. Great. What else comes up for you with God, Margot?
Fear.
Fear. Wow. Who else? God. Kathy. Judgment.
Punishing.
Laura.
Male.
Male. What did you say, Wayne?
Punishing.
Punishing.
Outer.
Outer. Outer.
PTSD.
Pardon me?
PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So then we've got all of these feelings, which I didn't hear anybody say, warm snuggly, give me whatever I want, loves me unconditionally, that kind of thing. So then we move into this idea that says that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So we're made in the image and likeness of fear, we're made in the image and likeness of separation, we're made in the image and likeness of post-traumatic stress disorder. We're made in the image and likeness of not these great things. And when you move into spiritual mind treatment and you start embracing this idea that there's only one and that is what you are, if you're still holding on to an idea of a God that is an outside power that is frightening, then you don't want to be that. And so what we want to do is we want to start off by looking at what does this idea of God or creator or spirit or the oneness or whatever means. And why is it important for us to get clear on that word?
Because that's who we are.
That's who we are. How many were in the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible class? What does name mean?
The essence of the person, the nature.
The nature. Name means nature. So what we want to do, instead of taking the old name that was given to us, is look at the nature of the divine and come up with some different words for it. So in the second commandment, and I get to do this because I just finished my Bible class. The second commandment says, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." Oh, God. When we go to this idea that we are misusing the name of the Lord our God, what in the hell does that mean?
Blaspheme.
You go to the fear and the outer God, and that's blaspheme. But let's look at it a little bit different. If name means what?
Nature.
Nature. If we misuse instead of name, we could say, "You shall not misuse the nature of the Lord your God. For the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his nature." What does that mean?
It reminds me of what Michelle's talking about in the Four Agreements class.
Tomorrow night in this
Yes,
very room.
in this very room, of be impeccable with your word. I always thought it was impeccable with your word with others, which is one component of it. But what she was stressing is in be impeccable with your word with yourself, which is the nature of who you actually are.
Right, so how might you break the second commandment? I mean, we break them all so regularly. How might you break the second commandment by misusing the nature of spirit?
By criticizing yourself?
Rick?
By associating I am with anything less than love.
Anything less than love associated with I am would be breaking the second commandment. Yes, Margot?
Oh, I just said criticizing yourself.
Criticizing yourself. Oh, I just said. No, my idea, fantastic and wonderful that it was when you criticize yourself, you're breaking the second commandment. What else? Bob?
Separation.
When you look at anything with a separation, you're breaking the second commandment because you are messing up with the nature of spirit. Julia?
Well, I'm just thinking about putting like what religion has done for so long, where making God in the image of man versus man is made in the image of God.
Right, that guy on a cloud with an attitude problem, that's taking the worst of us and creating deity out of it. Instead of saying, what might the nature of the divine be? Was I supposed to get more words here?
No, I'm sorry, these are just examples.
Okay.
These are just examples, and but these are the kind that you were talking about, Becca, that really push you to see something outside of yourself. But there are other ways to look at it that get more integrated.
Creator and spirit, that I'm able to integrate.
Okay, the last two?
The last,
Because you're the creator of your life.
yes,
Very good, and you are a spiritual being, therefore those concepts work for you.
yes.
Okay, cool. So there are others that some people use. The native people have a great one called Great Mystery. Kind of cloaks it in the mystical. So that, yeah, that's a nice one. Mine, of course, is divine presence. It's the presence. It is present everywhere. So if we look at it from that place, it isn't singly located. And that kind of, so you can use different words to do it that don't get you stuck in the old mindset. And that I find helpful. Yes, Jane?
Well, you know, I always, well, anyway, thou shalt not take the Lord, the name of the Lord in vain.
Yeah.
Now, what's that mean?
Well, that was the interpretation from the Aramaic to the Greek to the Old English. And if you again interpret and say name means nature, it means don't discount. To me, it means don't discount the nature of the divine within you. You know, that's the way I would interpret that. But here, let's look at it in a New Testament concept. Jesus began his prayer that he taught the people.
Abba?
No, just
Our Father?
our Father, that's what I'm looking for. Our Father which art in heaven. He also taught that heaven is within. So he's saying that Father, that presence, that divine essence is within. So that's where he started his prayer. So if you're looking for God out there, you got to play with one of these ideas, and then something's over you, and something has power, it has influence, it has direct effect on who you are as a being. But if you find God within, then that is an integral part of who you are. And that's what we're moving toward.
So we can't take that name in vain because it's something inside of us that we're taking in vain.
Yes, I think.
Or how would you take it in vain? You know, how would you misuse or mislabel the nature of the divine, and how would you label it correctly? If limited is a misuse, then what is labeling it correctly?
Identifying with circumstances.
What does that have to do with the opposite of limited?
Well, I was just thinking it was like,
Yes, you were having an example of limited, yes. But Jane is saying not to take the name, the nature of the Lord in vain. So how would you take the nature, label it incorrectly, in vain? Bob?
I was thinking incorrectly would be like, you know, some groups say, well, if they're not part of us, they're heathens or
All right, let's look at the big picture of God.
okay.
Names for God, ways of looking at God that would be taking it in vain, which doesn't mean saying goddamn. It means mislabeling, misrepresenting the nature of the divine. B.
Limited versus unlimited.
Limited would be taking it in vain. Unlimited would be a true reflection of what spirit is. Who had their hand up over here? Rebecca.
Belittling yourself.
Yeah, but let's keep it on the big thing. Everybody wants to go within, which is great, but let's keep it on this whole idea of deity on a really big scale. Ann Lee and then Gloria Maria.
I don't think I have anything constructive, other than say I'm having a difficult time with the discussion because there's so much, I've already been so indoctrinated about what taking the Lord's name in vain, that even stepping outside of that to think in terms of, you know, godly nature and all of that, I'm just like, I can't even follow.
Okay, well, just hang in there. Gloria Maria.
Judgment.
Judgment, the idea of a judgmental deity or a judgmental universe. What about karma? Instant karma's gonna get you, a la John Lennon. There's something out there that's gonna get you because it's judging you. And when you put that into an absolute level, then you live in a judgmental universe. And if you go to, in Science of Mind, that whatever spirit is, it's within you, made in the image and likeness of, then if we have a judgmental universe or a judgmental deity, and we bring that inside of ourselves, we're going to live in fear. And that's when Science of Mind stresses people out and freaks them out. Oh my God, I just said something, now I have to live with it for the rest of my life. No, you can change it at any moment. But if we have a belief system, as is evidenced by the general level of stress in the room right now, deep breath everybody. If we have a belief system that says that whatever it is anything less than, as Rick said, love, then we're going to be trying to work with that kind of a power in the creative process of learning how to manifest our lives. So when we say, and we really recommend that you don't, but people do all the time, say, God is all there is, it would really serve you to know what you mean and what you feel with that idea of God. That's why I taught for years without ever bringing the word up, because it brought stuff out of people that was old belief systems, old BS that kept you from living the wonderful life that you're here to live. Gloria Maria.
When I used to think about the word God is all that is, I used to say, oh, I'm all of that too? And I felt that way when I had judgment on all of that. When I let go of the judgment of all of that, knowing that God is all that is. I understood, and I don't feel that fear of all that
Right,
is.
but it took you a while to get there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So now I can say that word, free, or that feeling.
So different ways of describing the divine. Great mystery, divine presence, one, God, if you're clear, goddess, Heavenly Father, be clear about your father issues, or mother, be clear about your mother issues, creator, spirit,
What about source energy?
source
Nice.
energy. What else?
Essence,
Essence,
light,
light, I am. What a great I
omnipotent,
am, tell them the I am sent you. Who presence,
omnipotent.
omnipotence.
Self.
What is your name?
Karen.
Karen.
Self, spelled with a capital S.
Capital S, self. You feeling better, Anley?
Anybody think that that presence we're speaking of gives a rip what we call it? Of course not. That's not even part of the equation. So this is just for us. It's just for us that we use words around it. There's another way that I have found it very helpful to begin this. So why we're doing this tonight, we're still in step one recognition. That's all we're looking at. Because I don't want you to get stuck in thinking that you can make one phrase every time you do a spiritual mind treatment that's going to fully reflect your understanding of the divine. None of us are ever going to fully understand the divine. We are moving toward a greater understanding. But we are not expecting to get to the end and go, got it, that's it. Doesn't happen. It's a direction, and we move deeper and deeper, layer by layer, in our understanding of it. And one thing that really worked for me were two words that I found in some research one day. Pantheism. You know that word? Anybody know what it means?
Yeah, it means God is everything.
It means God is everything. Pan means one. Theos is God, and it's a philosophy. It's an idea. So it's an ism. Okay. Pantheism, right? And it means God is all. Really simple.
From a big perspective too. not
Well,
just-
it basically is saying that that the universe and God are the same. Okay? Then there's this other word that really kind of took me to a different level. Panentheism. Anybody know what that is? Good. I get to teach you. All in God. Different. Pantheism is God is all. And panentheism means that all is in God. In other words, God is bigger than all there is. How much bigger? We don't know. Just bigger. Now it's interesting how these two words have evolved in philosophy. Let me tell you the names of some pantheists. People who saw that first word as their way of perceiving the divine. Taoism. William Wordsworth, Walt Whitman, Henry David Thoreau. Great thinkers. D.H. Lawrence, Albert Einstein, Frank Lloyd Wright, Carl Sagan. Billions and billions of stars. And James Cameron, the director. Yeah, Titanic. Those are all people that think the universe and God are the same thing. Now the people that see God as something greater than the whole of the universe. Plato, Meister Eckhart, Spinoza, my favorite philosopher, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Ernest Holmes. The Gnostic Gospels talk of panentheism. And it's also in the Gnostic Gospels is in Thomas when Jesus was said to have said, lift up a stone and I will be there. I'm beyond the physical. I'm everywhere. I'm beyond the physical. So the idea of metaphysics really fits very nicely with panentheism, where there's a physicality to pantheism. So because we are in the camp of panentheism, that God is something more than anything of what we can experience, then we are open to continue to explore that infinitely. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do with step one. We don't want to fall into a trap of getting a phrase or two phrases or three phrases and thinking that that'll do it. That'll do our step one. If we got that, we're good. We need to keep in our lives exploring this. And truly, this is what the mystics have done for all of time. Many of them go into monasteries or caves or something and explore within themselves the idea of the presence of the divine. What does that mean? What's there? You know, and it's not just necessarily moving out into the universe. It is, and it can be, but it's also moving infinitely inward because that presence must be there. So that's kind of an important little game that I like, that has helped me in my journey, is to see the distinction between those two. Very close, but not the same. Not the same. Let's talk about the something I think, Kim, you mentioned, one of those words. Omni. What does omni mean?
All.
All. All right. So there are three that we use pretty generally in this teaching to describe this divine presence, and we'll just go ahead and start with the first one. Omnipresence, or being omnipresent. What does that mean? Everywhere present. Okay, that's lovely, but in traditional Christian ideas, that means God is always watching. But that's not it. It means that God must not only be everywhere, it must be at the point of view. Which moves us into step two. But let's stay in step one right now to recognize that that presence is absolute everywhere. Complete, whole, in every way, right where everything is, including you. In fact, there cannot be a place or a way that something is not the presence of the divine. Can't exist. Doesn't exist. Even in the great, what appears to be the great void of space, that divine presence is as much there as it is right here. And as much here as it is right there. Omnipresent, always present. These other two get us a little further into this. Did I spell that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Omnipotence. Yes, omnipotence, meaning all-powerful. Meaning that all power is God. Now that doesn't, is often interpreted as, that means God can get you. No! No, it means all power is the presence of the divine. All of it. Ah, she put her hand up. What did that? God. That was a power. That was using that power to raise your hand. That's the presence of the divine.
That's what I got in the book, and it was just, this week, it really was important to me to realize that every time I moved, it was the power of God. And it was just, even my finger.
Yes.
It really struck me.
We want to give God credit for tornadoes and earthquakes and the movement of the cosmos, but we forget it's at the point of our bodies too. That's all God. Nothing could move, nothing could be animated without that presence being present. It would be impossible. Yes.
To me, we wouldn't be alive.
No, we wouldn't exist.
Because
There couldn't be.
that spark that makes us life, that light, or whatever we call it, is God. So if that spark walks away, we die.
Right. Everybody got that? Yes?
Isn't even death then God?
Yes, absolutely. Because there is an energy to that transference. So it is. Death is God. Yes, life is God, death is God. And besides, the opposite of death is not life. The opposite of death is birth. They're starting and ending points of an experience. That's all. Life is forever. So the last one here is omniscience.
Knowing.
All-knowing.
All-knowing. That does not mean that God knows what you're thinking. God is your thought. All your thoughts. How do you know God knows? Because you know. There's no difference. And if you know, the entire universe has that knowingness available to it. There is no distinction, no break between who you are and what God is. Your knowing is the knowing of the universe, of the knowing of the divine presence, which is greater than the universe. Yes?
I love these 3 words, and I got to a place, anyway, there's something that happens, and our language isn't set up well.
No,
to
really.
deal with this. It's really dualistic. So when we say all-knowing, it implies a knower, but that implies duality. There's a place where the knower and the knowledge are one thing.
Or one thing, the knowing and the knowledge are the same thing, of course. Of course. We experience as though we have a thought, but that thought is generated out of us, out of our very essence. There is no distinction there. And I think that's a really important point. Yes, Kim?
So there is no need for wiretapping, because when you tap into the wiring of who you are, you're already connected to all of it.
Absolutely. So in a spiritual mind treatment, we are not saying words for something outside of us to hear it. By the very essence of our thinking, of our speaking, and of our taking action, we are completely immersed in the omnipresence, the omnipotence, and the omniscience of the divine. It is always everywhere. Yes, Jane?
Does that mean that every thought that you have is in the presence of God?
Yes.
How about like if you just had stupid fantasies all the time? Is that-
That's God. What else could it be?
It's created.
Where everything except stupid thoughts? God is everything except stupid thoughts? That can't work. It's either everything or nothing. And it's everything. It has to be. The idea that it's a stupid thought is a judgment and holds you in that idea of the nature of God being less than. It's all perfect.
But that's from that, so that kind of a thought is from God too, huh?
From, I think, is where you're missing here. It's not a from.
Okay,
It is the presence of the divine, as David was saying.
okay.
So if you think that something is that you thought was stupid, then the thought that you're thinking is stupid is God, and the thought you're judging is God.
The judgment.
Because we are of free will to experience life any way that we like. That's the beauty of it. But God can't be outside of it. I had a colleague once try to convince me that in the matter of something like rape, that God would be the rapist but not the act. Well, then what's the act? The act's outside of God? That doesn't work for me. Even these horrible things in life that we know have to be filled with and completely immersed in the presence. Even though we disdain them, we say don't want those in our lives, don't think humanity should ever have to deal with those. The truth is that must be the presence of the divine. God must be in the midst of it, or it can't exist.
It depends on your perspective, and the word therapist is the word rapist. They're really taking you down to your essence of that. So if we go into victimhood.
Yeah, that's going to change your relationship with your therapist, isn't it? Yeah, you know? And so what we're talking about is so absolute that the language fails us. But we can't stop there because we use language as our tool. Is it the perfect tool that gets us everywhere we need to go? I would suggest no, but it does us the best it can so that we, within our essence and our understanding of the divine, can move into a greater awareness of the presence. It's from that greater awareness that we move into a knowing of our lives that can change how we perceive it. That's the work. So the first step has to be that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and always present everywhere. If we can observe that and accept that and embrace and embody that idea, then we speak from that knowing. That's what we're trying to get to here. That's the essence of this. Any questions? Yes?
So,
Right back.
so treatment is just focusing on knowing those reactions.
In the first step, really, these are the things that you want to explore in your discovery of a recognition of the divine.
And to acknowledge those aspects.
If you always have the same idea of what this is that we're speaking of, in every time you do a treatment, that's as far as you can go in your treatment. But if you stretch yourself to just be with that idea and see if you can find something more to understand about the divine as you begin your work, that will help you achieve what it is you're seeking through your treatment. I love that Holmes called it treatment, and that he moved away from the word prayer, because prayer, like God, implies something's happening. I pray through you. And even though that's a limited view of what prayer is, the fact that we use the word treatment allows us to recognize that we are shifting something. We are going deeper. We are going into a greater understanding of this thing that we are, which is always our task. That's our work. The great work is to go more clearly and deeply into an understanding of the divine. First as itself, and then as us, recognizing it's the same thing. But if you can begin to use these concepts to explore divine presence, then you take that and apply it to yourself in the next step. We're staying in the first step tonight. You really want to get this and keep going deep. Yes?
Is the idea of achievement to change what is or to accept what is?
I think that by going deeper, we become more aware of what is. By not doing that, we are held at a limited reality that will only allow, because what we're doing here is we're reflecting our consciousness into the universal mind of God. It isn't in another place, it's happening simultaneously, but what that does is that reveals that presence in our physical presence in our world. So, and when we do that, things change. So it isn't that treatment is not about fixing something. God, if we get caught up in fixing stuff, we'll never get this. This is about knowing a greater reality. And by knowing that greater reality and having that consciousness, our outer reality shifts. Yeah, that's the work. Yeah, a lot of people think that treatment's about fixing it. That's the last thing it's about. We are transcending the limited understanding we have had and the limited reality we have observed. And it was Holmes that said transcendence transmutes.
Aurobindo.
Aurobindo said that. Transcendence transmutes. It does not rectify. Transcendence lifts us above condition. It does not fix the condition. It lifts us above it so that we experience a different condition. Aurobindo was one of Holmes' teachers. Yes.
All right, so I'm really struggling. I'm so kind of new. But when you're talking about this,
I want you to let go of the idea that you're new.
I'm not new.
You are
I'm here.
so completely present as an ancient being of love and light.
Okay, there
I
I
know.
am an ancient being of love and light. However, I
Yep.
struggle.
See how we do it? See how we do it? We argue for our limitations.
I'm asking, how do you get from this thought pattern of duality? Because I think that, I work at a rape crisis center, so I have this really hard time thinking that I am creating the act of, or I'm a part of the act of.
I'll give you your first step.
Okay.
Refuse to see. Be gentle and loving and present with anyone you're working with, and know that they're the presence of the divine. And they're finding their way. I often sit with someone when I'm doing counseling, and they're telling me this sad, horrible story about how they were abused and how horrible their life is and how everything has fallen apart. And I'm sitting there going, this is God trying to trick me. This is God trying to make me believe that this is something less than God. It's not. This is the presence of the divine before me. And I honor and respect that knowing within me of who this is. And I will not see them as a victim, as a failure. I will not see them at a mortal level. I will know the presence. And from that, in your gentleness of loving and supporting these people who most of the time have to begin the process by seeing themselves as a victim, you hold a higher place for them to go.
I get that. I'm there. I think that because you're saying we're one and all, or God is all, we are all, therefore I am also the act of rape. Do you know what I mean? Like,
If you
Well,
chose it.
the allness of the divine includes those actions. But we, as individual beings expressing the divine as us, choose our experience. We choose our experience. That does not say that someone who has experienced rape is somehow flawed. That's just their path. If everything is a spiritual experience, then so is that. And we can, if we say that's not, that you're a victim, you were abused, and you are just this pathetic person who got beat up and all this stuff. If we play that game, we're playing such a small game. We want to play the bigger game of saying, okay, and someone will tell you about that as Oprah Winfrey. You know, and thousands of other women who say, I took that experience and I used it to live a magnificent life. And that's where you do this work. That's the place, because the presence of the divine is in everyone and everything. And everything's a spiritual experience. Not to be repeated necessarily, but as a pathway, a point in time where something happened. We had a person who used to come to the center that had gone through that experience. And 20 years, was it 20 years later? That they connected a person that the DNA matched, and they went through another trial, and she had to go back to Virginia and go through it all. ABC Good Morning America called her and asked her to come in and said, well, how do you deal with this? 20 years later, you know, you've moved on maybe, and you know, how do you deal with all that? And she tries to talk about science of mind, they don't want to hear it. But the essence is, that's how she did it. That's how she did it, because she knew that that experience, as horrible in the moment, as painful physically and emotionally painful, was a step in her life to having a great life, with 2 beautiful children and a loving husband.
She said, I only spend a few minutes with him. I'm not going to give him the rest of my life. She said that on Good Morning America.
Does that make sense? Yeah, it's all in your perception. So when we fall into that trap, and we all do it, of sometimes being the victim, being the one that somehow has been treated unfairly or abused or whatever, however the words come, we must rise above that. We must see the presence in that experience to allow it to align with a greater understanding of life. It's extraordinary. It's one of the coolest things we get in this teaching, because none of us get to grovel in the pain and the suffering and the memory of something. And you know what we do. As we remember it over and over again, we make it worse than it was. We always do. You know? So it's seldom in those moments of physical act that is the thing. It's our playing it over and over and over again. So we heal it by shifting our understanding of it and finding that this truly was a divine moment in time where something extraordinary happened. No matter how painful, no matter how traumatic, it did something amazing for us that we can use to make our life better. Yeah. Yes,
This may be a little irrelevant, but it just keeps going through my mind. If God is present in all acts, including rape, then why punish the rapist?
Oh, because that's part of the system, and it works. It works, because Barbara mentioned instant karma. I love to talk about karma, because karma is not punishment. Karma is experiencing the opposite of what you expressed, which is the natural flow of life. So that if you hurt someone, your karmic experience is to be hurt. It wasn't Gacy, it was one of the ones, the one down in Florida that was the serial killer. Bundy, it was Bundy. Killed a number of women, brutal attacks, killed these women, got arrested, was put in prison, repeatedly went to the electric chair, was strapped in, and they would give him a stay. They'd take him out, put him back in his room. A few months later, they'd bring him back, they'd strap him in, ready to go, they'd give him a stay, and back to his room. Can you imagine how awful that must have been? And how perfect, as a karmic experience, it must have been. To prepare to die over and over and over again.
But isn't that what he was doing anyways? Because he was disconnected from source. To punish somebody for what I think what you're getting to, is that you're punishing somebody for being disconnected from source.
Yeah, but I'm not
sure.
sure.
Locking them away is not going to reconnect them to source.
No, of course not. Of course not. But we call this to ourselves. And the idea of reconnecting from source, I have trouble with that concept, and I hear Abraham say that. Because I don't know how, I can think I'm disconnected from source, but the truth is I cannot possibly be disconnected from the only thing that is. Or then I would cease to exist.
Well, you're exhibiting your free will.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
So it really depends on on your perspective, if we're all doing it our best, that we think is our best in a given moment, the rest is judgment, like he's saying. I mean, who are we to judge? We don't know, we're not inside that rapist's head, we're not inside Bundy's head. We don't know, we are in a sense inside his head because we're all one. There's that shadow side to all of us.
There is, and it plays out in different ways. And what I think the idea of being in human experiences is that you experience the full gamut of that to create a balance of your life. So that if you are violent in your life, violence is what you experience. And if you are loving in your life, love is what you
Yeah,
experience.
and he's playing a role for us to know that extreme.
Yes, exactly. And that's part of the whole of the presence of God. Because God is Ted Bundy. God is Adolf Hitler. God is the Khmer Rouge. God is all of these things. But not only that. God, and what we are is an evolving species on planet Earth, learning to know who we are. And the more we know consciously who we are, the sooner we will be to an evolved space where we can see this and live in that level of peace and wholeness. Hold on, I had a hand up over here. I'll come right back.
So to me, what you were saying, God is everything. God is the bad. God is the good. We came to this world to live experience, and we make choices. Some people make different choices than we do, but the people who made those choices to be the victim made the choice to be the victim as well. So we just, in a way.
I agree with everything you're saying except the good and the bad. Those are judgments. Those are perceptions. We live in a world where we see good and bad and we label them and we call them that. But the truth is, on an absolute level, they are all spiritual experiences.
Exactly.
Even the ones that we can never in our mind reconcile, they have to be God. What else can they be? That's all there is. The presence of the divine. Expressing in all kinds of ways, at all kinds of levels. And it's all perfect. It has to be. Even the ugly stuff. And I believe as we consciously evolve as a species, we move more and more toward peace, toward our understanding of self. And if you look at the data, we are, even with all the stuff you can see on the nightly news or the cable news channels, we are more at peace as a species today than we have ever been in our existence.
We're more connected through the internet.
Exactly, we're finding ways to connect, yes. Oh, no. David, I'll be right there.
So
Thanks, Steph.
I think you said it well before, so there's God, Spirit, Love, Deity. I am is in the midst of all of these experiences, but that doesn't mean the experience is desirable.
No.
I have a choice about
That's the
which
point.
experience.
Yes.
Jesus said, I come that they might have life. Life is God, God is life. So if my experience is one of bringing life, then that's what I get.
Yay.
And it's much more pleasurable, and it kind of works out a whole lot better than bringing not life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesus was also quoted as saying that he brought the sword. And he experienced pretty violent death.
Yeah.
He was on his perfect path, without exception. Yes, Jane.
Well, we're the ones that put the labels, like good and bad. Aren't we?
Yes, we are the ones that put the labels and then define what the labels mean. That's sort of what we do as human beings, and what that does is keep us in those limiting thoughts. Thank you. Stephanie?
Well, I was observing in my inner self, I'm kind of on slow-mo right now, and in the discussion, I felt this sort of energy building, kind of stressful, it felt like to me. I was feeling myself, and so I was looking at that and said, oh, I really want to know the answer, get some answers. And so then I was able to relax with what you said, like, it just, this is the process. I don't have to get it right, get every answer right now. This is helpful if I relax. And also part of the relaxing is there's to leave a room for the mystery. I do like the mystery, like maybe, I won't get everything and I could just let that be and enjoy that.
And get something.
Yeah.
Yeah, get something. Morgan, what do you want to say?
Okay, so if you're trying to shift your consciousness,
Which is what I want to talk about. Go ahead.
so, but you feel like your mind is it's down there, it's negative, it's like, how do you get past that? It's like, how do you rise up?
Pretend. Honestly, if you have that regular flow, and we're gonna talk about that with a couple of things that we're gonna talk about in the second hour, about that litany of thoughts, the judgments and the fears and all that run through your head. That what you're doing is you're shifting that balance. You're beginning to have conscious, intentional thoughts that are contrary to that. So what could that be? Whatever it is for you, you will find it. You will find the words. We're going to end the class tonight with an exercise in writing first steps to find those words that resonate with you, that will slow down some of those other thoughts, that will replace some of them, that can become more a part of your thought patterns. But it's got to be conscious, because all this other stuff is what happens unconsciously as we live our lives. Because we're looking at the world and saying, wow, it's a dangerous place. Wow, things happen, good things happen, or bad things happen to good people, or whatever you're thinking, those thoughts go on. I need to be afraid of that guy, or that thing, or that person, or that situation. I need to protect myself. What was it? It's in one of Emerson's essays on self-reliance, he talks about two men walking through the woods. One of them wears moccasins and whatever, but he's free and open to the environment. The other one wears hip-high leather boots to protect himself from the snakes. But the guy in the moccasins, he understands the nature of the snake. Which one's safer? If the guy in the hip-high leather boots is afraid of the snakes, if that's his rationale, he's going to get bit. Somehow, he's going to reach in or do something and get bit. The guy with the moccasins understands the nature of the snake, therefore he's safe. So what we're doing is we're changing our understanding of the nature of the divine. And by doing that, we're safe. And we're open to experiencing the fullness of life. That's where true value is. True value is not protecting ourselves from life. True value of being on a spiritual path is to open up to life, understanding the nature of who we are, understanding that no one and nothing is really against us. Those are just perceptions. That we are the presence of the divine, and we are finding our way. But you begin by understanding that this presence is something which Holmes said was greater than we are. He said it was greater than we are.
Yet we are that.
Yet we are that. So I often wonder if that isn't one of Holmes's limiting thoughts. But I think he needed to say that because he was bridging from traditional Christianity into this new way of being. So whether the allness of spirit, this divine presence that we see at the level of panentheism, is the state, the truest state of the presence of the divine, if that is true, then we must continue to pursue an understanding of it so that we can utilize that understanding in our lives fully. It starts right there. Yes.
I'm thinking that we are that discovering that,
Yes, we are discovering.
not that we know it, but we're in the process of.
Well, we are, but we claim that we know it. We say so around here all the time, I know. And what that does is that calls us into a high level of consciousness. And whatever we know at that point isn't all to know. There's more to know. But at that moment, I'm declaring with absolute certainty that I recognize the presence of the divine in and as my life. And here's where we're going. We'll do this next week, but I'll give you a hint on this. We're doing that to establish the authority from which we speak. That's what we're doing. You've got to start with an understanding, whatever you got, of the divine and seeking to know it more so. And we in our thinking, we don't spend time worrying about rape and murder and violence at the level of our own personal experience because we know who we are.
And that understanding continues to expand.
It does, and it touches those around us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are places in the world it's not really a safe place to be, but which in this room would go to a place like that? Anybody going off to Syria right now? No. Of course not. With the consciousness we have, we wouldn't want to be in that kind of a place. We want to be where we are because this is where we're doing our work. This is where we're expanding our consciousness. And this is the work we do in there. At least the work I do. If you want to join me, please. Any other questions? Did I get everybody? Yes, Sue.
For me, the two words pantheism and monotheism could be, I believe them both at the same time. They don't have to be separate. I mean, I believe that God is all there is in everything, and yet there is some knowing in me of the presence of a greater intelligence. Doesn't mean a separate person up in the sky, but the overall, so I mean, that would make both of them true for me at the same time.
Well, I think that pantheism is contained in pantheism.
Yeah, yes.
So
exactly.
by that you could argue, yes, both.
So I would agree with Ernest Holmes and, you know, from what I've read and from what you just said. That it's-
He demonstrates it when he says that that creative force of the universe creates all but is not absorbed by its creation.
Yeah.
Meaning that we don't worship the physicality of life.
Yes,
That there's something greater to know. That's pantheism.
yes, yes, and the other is contained within it. And the other thing is that the thing that trips me up, or that did trip me up.
Good. Past tense. That's the best way to present these things.
The use of the word God, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, it causes me to picture a separate being. And if there's a separate being, it's based on the human emotion, and it becomes like this God, human thing
Yeah.
that will judge, that will do all these things. So when you take that out of the equation, and I think in terms of when all these things come up about, well, you know, how could that be God? It's rape. And if that's God, why should the person be punished, you know, and so on and so on. But if you take that good and bad out of the whole equation, and you just, like, if I think of it as life, just life, you know, take God out of it, it's life, it's spirit, it's universe, it's not good or bad. So everything that happens is life.
Right.
So it's easier to say that, you know, rape or whatever is in the human condition is part of life.
When those things
It's
happen.
hard to say that rape is God, because God is like, you know.
It's hard to say I am God. You know, you just walk around saying I am God, they will lock you up. But if you say God is all, that's all there is, so therefore I must be that. You know, it changes the functionality of that. So I agree with you, and I know that this work continues to evolve within us. So we'll continue to keep demonstrating our understanding of the divine as we move through it. Don't ever think you got it all figured out. Keep looking at it, keep exploring it. That's what keeps it alive in us. That's what
You're
keeps it.
supposed to have something figured out.
No, we're not supposed to have it all figured out. I know if those of us who like to have things all figured out really struggle with it.
Take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Plus nothing equals what? Spirit.
That much I can figure out.
Nothing, there's nothing other than spirit. So there's nothing other than spirit. Even if you wanted to make nothing spirit, it'd be spirit plus spirit equals spirit. Spirit plus nothing equals spirit. Spirit is all that there is. This idea of a unity, of a oneness, of infinite. Oh, stay with me here. This is such a good idea. Infinite means that there can't be an outer edge, right? Because if you had an infinite, and then you had an outer edge where the outer edge of the infinite was, there would be not infinite. Right. There would be an edge to it. So think about this, because spirit is, you know, God is the circle, it has no circumference, whose center is everywhere, right? And here is this space-time continuum contained within spirit, and truly our physical universe of time and space is flat, and we want to take this absolute infinite idea and cram it into a time and space reality so that we can understand it. But that which is infinite cannot have an edge to it. Because if you have an edge to the infinite, then there's a place where the infinite stops. And if the infinite stops, then you don't have a oneness, you have a 1 plus 1 equals 2-ness. And instead of living in the oneness, you're living in 2-ness, you're living in duality. So just think about it, that the infinite, in order to be an infinite, must be constantly expanding. See, I told you it was big. And to prove it, when they first sent the Hubble telescope out to take pictures of the edges of the universe, which would be the edges of this layer of time and space, they actually say that there are multiple layers of time and space going on simultaneously, even here in this very room. And multiple universes, but still that's in time and space. And what we're talking about is that which is beyond time and space. So they send out the Hubble telescope to try to take a picture of the edge of time and space. The edge of the physical universe. Everything came, it was not a waste of money. Everything came back what they call red shifted. All the pictures came back with the light red shifted. And when you take a picture of something that is moving away from you, the light shifts to the red. So as far as they could go with the Hubble telescope, all they could do was take a picture of something that was still moving away. The universe is expanding, even in a time and space reality. And I think where we get into trouble is we try to take this absolute reality that we're trying to transcend into, and instead of transcend into it, we try to take it, we try to slam it into time and space, into the relative, so that we can understand it and figure it out. That's not what we're doing. We're letting the relative go, turn away from the condition, rise up in consciousness, transcend into a greater reality, even if you don't understand it. Get up there, and the level of the relative will shift. So, take another deep breath. Big thoughts. Quantum physics. In order for an infinite to exist, it must exist in its totality, simultaneously, at every point. Thomas Troward. If we can conceive of anything entirely devoid of the element of extension in space, it must be present in its entirety, totally anywhere and everywhere, that is to say, at every point of space simultaneously. It's the same thing. Spirit plus nothing equals spirit. But pantheism, we are all included with God, in God. To we are in God and God is greater. Pantheism. To every point of God is manifest in every point, in every person, in every circumstance. All of God is manifest as you now. Big ideas. And if they don't start to blow your mind, you're not catching them. So what we have is this idea that, of course, we're living in a time-space reality, but what we're talking about is way beyond time and space, and in order for us to have a oneness, then that oneness must exist in its totality simultaneously at every point, which means in you. God is all of God. And you know, that's a little scary. That's why people have a hard time saying, I am God, because that's a little scary. Well, that means I'm supposed to be this amazing being. And of course, I'm not an amazing being. I'm just me with all of my faults and limitations. No, you're an amazing being. You are the entirety of life beyond what we would even call life, beyond what we could think of. There is that which is us, and it's not only all of us, you know, there's no dark spot in you, no original sin, no blackness. It's not only all of you, you are all of it. Holy moly! That's where we're going beyond the relative, beyond the world of conditions, and transcending into a completely different reality. So if you need to have a part for a machine that's halfway around the world, or get this, wasn't even invented yet, all of a sudden, here it is. That is the level with which we deal. We are not bound by what has happened yet, by where it is, or how long it takes to get from one point to another. We are the totality of the life and the love and the joy, the prosperity and the health and the wholeness of all that is. And if we could but open to it a little bit, we would have miracles up the wazoo. That would be a miraculous wazoo. So when you think that's impossible, when you think, well, it would take too long, when you think, well, nobody's ever done it yet, how do you think you can do it? Nobody's ever done it yet. That's trying to put the absolute into the relative, and we are missing the boat. What we want to do is to rise up into this idea that says, it doesn't matter if nobody's ever done it yet, in some future point in time it's been done, and if it exists in some future point, it exists now, because we're not limited by time. If anyone will ever know it, you know, I got through algebra in college by saying if anyone ever knew it, part of the one mind, I know it, and I made A's in algebra, and I do not know how, if you take a train and leave one city and take a car, go to another, I don't know that stuff, but I still made A's. Well, not only what anybody ever knows, but what about what anybody ever will know? What about if peace ever will be a reality, it must be a reality now. And we don't have to wait for it. We don't have to deal with the element of time. We don't have to deal with the element of process. We are going into this idea that says spirit plus nothing equals spirit. Spirit is not only above and beyond all of the realm of time and space, but all of spirit is manifest at every point of time and space, which means at the point of you. And so you have to start looking at yourself differently. You have to start stopping the idea that I'm only human and realize that you're all of God, or all of spirit, or all of the creative essence, or all of life. That is what you are, and it doesn't matter what you've ever done. It doesn't matter what you've ever thought. You cannot screw this up. It is your nature. It is the essence of you. The very fact that you are here is proof positive that all of spirit is manifest as you. Otherwise, there would be an end to the infinite, and we would have a not infinite, and the universe would not be able to hang together in time and space. It just wouldn't work. Isn't that amazing? That's where you're going in this first step of treatment. You're opening up to things that are beyond common sense. You don't want to stay with common sense. You're opening up to things that are beyond your awareness and beyond your knowledge. You're opening up to that greater you that is all. And that means if somebody knows it, you know it. If somebody has it, you have it. We're not as weak as our weakest link. We're as strong as the strongest one that has ever been or ever will be. And that's why we can say it is now, even when people think we are nuts. And if we can't say that it's now, it never will be. If we wait until we see it for us to have it, we'll never have it. What we do is we claim it and we know it and we have it because we have claimed it and known it, because we are beyond that which has been invented or created or manifested up until now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sweet. Has anybody ever heard of a thing called a hologram?
Yes.
There's a book called The Holographic Universe. Holograms are these cool things. Remember, Princess Leia sent R2-D2 to, I think it ended up to Luke, and he pushed the button, and out of R2-D2's little round thing was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, no.
It was Princess Leia.
Yeah, Princess Leia was the hologram, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was looking at it, and she was saying, oh no, Luke was looking at it, but she said, Obi-Wan, she thought it was going to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. And you look at this, and it's like this little light out in the middle of nothing, and holograms are cool because you can walk all around them. And well, here's the front, but here's the side. And oh my gosh, you can even see the back of Princess Leia, and this side with her little curly cute hairdo, and you can see her as if she was standing there, only it's a light projection, right? Boy, that was brand new technology. A hologram. The cool thing about a hologram negative is that it's this square, and it's just filled with little lines. All it's got, you know, in a regular negative, those of you who remember what film looked like, you had a picture. You could look at the negatives and go, oh yeah, or you could put them on a light board and you could look at them with your little eye thing and go, that's the one I want. This, you can't see anything. It's just little squirrely little things. But when you shine light through it, then you have Princess Leia, you know, and she's, oh my hand, please, you're on your phone. And she's got the little curly cute things. This is why when John helps me teach, he always does the drawings. But the thing about the hologram negative is if you cut it in half, you get the exact same picture. If you cut it in corners, you get the exact same picture. If you cut it, and cut it, and cut it, and cut it, and cut it, you get the exact same picture. The totality of the image is contained in every part of the holographic negative. And it will produce the same image. And the 80s, which is dating this technology, the big breakthrough was, oh my gosh, we live in a holographic universe. That you contain within yourself the same projection of the whole. And that we are all, because we're in time and space, and remember, we're just little dots in time and space, that's not all of us. We're like this in time and space, because you are not your body. Your body is in time and space, but that's just a little part of you. Even your aura or your energy field is in time and space, but it's just a little part of you. There's this huge you that is connected with everything else, and at this point is this piece of negative. And you contain within yourself the total whole of whatever. Life, God, spirit, deity, source, energy. We don't even know what word to use to try to encompass that. But that is what you are. And everybody is saying the same thing with different ways of trying to describe it. You cannot be only human. You cannot be separate. You cannot be limited. You can pretend that you're limited, but it's only your infinite ability that allows you to play the game of limitation. It doesn't exist. And rather than manipulate limitation, we transcend, we rise up into that greater reality that says, I don't know how this works, but wow, Barbara Waterhouse says, I've got it all. So I'm just going to hang there and be in that allness for a while. You want your mic back?
Is it my mic? We're sharing pretty good here.
We are. As long as I remember to give it back, we're sharing good.
So, no, we got a group here that haven't gotten them yet. This group right in front here.
You guys had it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who didn't touch it? Okay, so we got one over here, but I know you guys didn't get it yet. Everybody else touched it? Oh, great, okay. Who didn't do this last week and would like to? Great, so Breezy's gonna pass around paper and envelopes. You're gonna have, when she gets close to you, let her know you need one. And the idea here is, I don't know how you did it last week, but what I'd like you to put on there is something that you're calling into your life. And state it as in present moment as you can. What it is that you're creating into your life. Something that you don't have a physical awareness of yet, but that's what you're going to know, and that's what we're going to write down. And what we're going to do with this is Barbara and I will continue to treat. We'll add your envelopes to the envelopes that we have. You will put it in the envelope, seal it, and write your name on it. And we'll continue to treat with them daily. And then at the end of the class, you'll get your envelope back, and you, at that point, can see what has happened to that. It's not really your job to continue to focus on this And do that at whatever level you want, but allow this thing to unfold in whatever way you would like it to.
Hold it in hand.
Yeah, oh no, you're gonna have to fold it, double fold it to get it in the envelope. Okay, so I have a question for you. How many believe that God is perfect? Only 3 people. Does anybody think that God is not, there's not perfection in the divine? What does that mean? If God is perfect, does that mean God doesn't make mistakes? You could argue that that's true, but that's not the essence of it.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Exactly. So the idea of the perfection of the divine means to me, this has really worked well in my life. It means that everything that we experience in life is a perfect reflection of our consciousness. So here's the little trick around that. Don't ever treat, what's that?
Say that again?
That everything that we experience in our lives is a perfect reflection of our consciousness. And be blaming other people for what's happening in your life, even with what they're doing, because you have created that experience in your life. Something in your consciousness is reflected in the law of spirit, reflected into your life. That's why it's there. It's not a bad thing. If you make it a bad thing, then you can't learn about it. You can't learn from it. Okay? Does that make sense? That's really important, because that means you're never treating for perfection. You don't treat for perfect health. Your health is already a perfect reflection of your consciousness. How would you like that to change? What is it in your consciousness that needs a shift so that you get a different reflection of your physical health? It's you. And that's not a blaming at all, because everything is a spiritual experience. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix. And perfection doesn't carry you to a better place. You're already perfect. You're already experiencing a perfect reflection of your consciousness. If you need to change something, if you want to change something, change your thinking around it. That's what will change it. That's all that will change it. Now, when you think a different thought, you usually act in a different way. So they kind of go together. But the thought comes first. So the work in understanding the presence is not to think that there's something else that will make you better. You're already perfect. Absolutely perfect. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life. The question is, how would you like it to be different? Now you can work on that. Not because you're broken, not because you're bad, not because you're in any way deficit. You're not. You're the creator of your universe. In every way. Don't limit yourself. Don't think something's wrong. Those are all limiting thoughts that hold you in a place that will not serve you. The place to be is in that great understanding that the presence of the divine, the creator of the universe, dwells at the point of unity. And the same way that this universe, this cosmos, in all of its elegance is created again and again and again. That's what you're doing with your life. Life is like a picture show. You don't just create it once and that's the way it is. You're constantly creating life. Life is fluid, and it takes your thought, and it creates a reality around you. If you change your thought, if you change the way you perceive life, that will be reflected in what you experience. You're constantly creating life. I believe that that divine essence that we've been talking about all night is constantly creating the cosmos. If it stopped creating the cosmos would cease to exist. That there is intelligence everywhere in the cosmos. Every atom has intelligence, because that combination of electrons and protons and neutrons is intelligent. How would it know to do that? How would it know to make iron instead of ammonia? Or to create oxygen instead of nitrogen? How would it know that? It has to be intelligent. God is in everything, at every point, no matter how big or how small. God is the presence, and God is intelligence. I love that the fundamental Christian movement in this country came up with this idea. I guess they came up with it, it's where I heard it, of intelligent design. How can you deny intelligent design? This just happened to fall together this way? That's impossible. Something intelligent creates this. I don't say created it. You know, this whole idea in the Bible where it says God created the heavens and the earth, that divine presence never stopped creating the heavens and the earth. It's a constant action over and over, as is your life. That's the microcosm and the macrocosm. Our life is just like the universe. It's exactly the same. We must keep creating it. That's why we keep thinking. And when we keep thinking the same thoughts, we keep getting the same result. So the idea of treatment is step out of that normal thought pattern and think something new. That's why we call it new thought. Think something new, and you'll get a new result. That's the work. So the question is, what do you want? What do you want that's new? What do you want that's different than you've experienced already? Without judgment, without blame, without fault. Just what is it that you want? You begin the process by being aware of the presence. How do you do that? This is what I like to do. I like to empty my mind. That's why many people, you'll hear them do this in treatment, they'll say, take a deep breath. I know with me. Because what they're doing is they're just letting go of whatever was there before. Let it go. Empty your mind. And from that emptiness, what is left is the presence. Be aware of the reason that you are doing the treatment. Whatever it is you're knowing about the divine, whether you're going infinitely into the infinitely small or infinitely massive, whether you're going out into the cosmos and grabbing up all the amazing elegance of all that's going on out there, the black holes and the nebulae and the solar systems and the galaxies and all that. You want to grab all that power and pull it into your experience of treating, that's great. You want to go in the other direction, into that presence of the intelligence and something so small that I can't even envision. Doesn't matter where you go. Look for the presence. Look for the presence. It is perfect. It always has been perfect. It always will be perfect. It works in that perfection, that elegance. And it follows our thought, because that's the law of spirit. It reflects our thought. We impress the law reflects it back. So we see that presence, that elegant, beautiful, mystical presence. And we honor it. We honor it. And we see within it whatever it is that we're seeking to know. If we want peace, then we see this as infinite peace. You can look at the universe. You can look at the cosmos and see so much beauty and so much elegance. The movement, the spiraling of galaxies. God, isn't that beautiful? That's my life. Whatever's there, that's what you go for. Knowing that whatever it is that you seek dwells in that mind of the divine. Perfectly. Already. You're not trying to create something out of nothing. You're trying to recognize what already exists in the potentiality of life. So that is what is revealed to you. You all saw that movie, What the Bleed? Remember the scene where all the basketballs going at the same time? You just that's sort of how it is, except instead of basketballs, it's all the possible scenarios for how this is going to be revealed to you. You pick one. There are infinite possibilities. I love it when somebody says to me, I didn't have any choice. Well, of course you did. And then I'll give them 2 or 3 other choices they could have made. They go, oh, I would never pick that. But you could have. But you didn't. Yay. You know? I could have picked up that knife and put it right through my hand, but I didn't. But it was a choice. You know? I chose something else. I chose to put butter on the bread. It's wonderful. Whatever works. But understand we're always at choice. And we make our choices by the thoughts that we have. Our thoughts are all choices. They are all choices. And as Holmes says, they are impressed into the law, reflected back into our lives. So when we have those limiting thoughts, and God, don't we have limiting thoughts? I can't. I couldn't. I had to. All those thoughts are limiting. Pick a bigger thought. Pick a new thought. Pick something. Start with it at the point of understanding the presence. So we take that essence of what it is and we build that into our first step. God is peace. God is love. God is the infinite presence as this thing called love that touches every heart and every life form. It is the glue that holds the universe together. This is where I am, going into the second step. And declare it absolutely as the reality that you see. And again, what you're doing with that is you're taking that amazing, unfathomable presence of the divine, whatever it is, making it as elegant in your understanding, as pure in your understanding, as absolute in your understanding, and then preparing to move into the next step, because this is who I am. And once I know that, then I'm ready to declare whatever it is in my life that I want, that I'm claiming. You get really clear to that. You can do affirmations in the third step. Without that, they are nowhere near as powerful. So here's what I want you to do. I think most everybody's got something to write on. Great call, Greg. Explanation of things. I know, don't write this down. This is an example of a first step, but you can't use this one. Because this is the one everybody hears it. What's another one everybody uses? There's only There is only one. Disqualified, can't use it. Let's just get those off the table, okay? They're the standards. And they're lovely, and they're not wrong. They're just kind of patent. They're just what we say. Say something different. Write down 3 other ways to start a treatment with an opening recognition. 1, 2, 3 sentences about how you could, and don't just start writing. I mean, take a breath. Let it all go. You can start, I know. And what follows that? What are the words that follow that carry you into a deeper understanding of the presence of the divine? Write something down. Write 2 or 3 of them down. We got 5 minutes. You've got the gift of vision. So be in that visual space. Oh, of course not. Of course not. But if you do it holographically, you might be able to get a brief sentence of the, you can't do the 1,000 words in a picture. So just get the picture. And then what is it about that you can say first?
Can't you come up with 3?
No, but if you can, whatever you can come up with in 5
There's
minutes.
a lot of creativity.
Yeah, it's lovely. Good for you. One more minute. So who wrote down something juicy that you'd like to share? Okay. Stand up there.
I know that there is that allness and oneness of being.
Thank you, very nice.
I know there is the Great Spirit which flows in and through every atom and cell of being.
Who else?
I know the magnificence of God is always present in my life now and forever.
Okay, that's beautiful. And having it in your life is exactly where you want to go. It is your life. However, that's step 2. Who else? Anybody back here? Okay.
Oh, does anyone else want to go? I know that.
Jane, you're going to stand like everybody else. Thank you, darling. You're wonderful. There you go. They want to be able to see you. There you go.
Oh, here I am.
Yes, you
Okay, I know that a presence exists around me, in me, and through me that is infinite, eternal, and omniscient. I am it right now.
Okay, you got step 1 and step 2. Good for you.
I know that God is manifested in me and all that is, so I am.
I love you guys putting step 2 in there. There's nothing wrong with that. You're getting the idea of it. You want to keep stretching this. You want to keep stretching the idea of what the divine is in your life. That's the job. You let it go with this one. It's the last one.
I'll only do the first part. I know spirit is omnipotence, the only movement in the universe, perfect, harmonious, constant.
Thank you. So y'all are beginning this process. Anybody feel complete with it? You got it? Anyone want to raise their hands and claim they've got it? Good students you are. You don't. You've got it to the point of where you are. There's more to know. Keep stretching. Keep looking at this. Don't discount the first step of treatment. The great mystics of all time have spent their lives trying to understand the first and the second step. They ain't worried about the rest. And some say you don't. If you get those first 2 down, every thought you have is so crystal clear, so absolute, so pure that it must manifest instantly. You know, they said those things about the Buddha. Okay, let's all get there. Because the Buddha is who we are. Thank you all. You're all a great class. This is wonderful.
So take out what you're going to give, and as we're doing that, if anybody is savvy with sound systems, I'm very interested in figuring out why this one is sounding the way that it is. Take out what you're going to give, hold it in your hand. John's got your envelopes.
And if there are more envelopes in the room, just put them in the basket as it comes to you. Whatever you're giving tonight.
So we know that right here and right now we are setting spiritual law in motion, that we get back what we give away. And so we choose to give away, in this moment, financial abundance, knowing that setting spiritual law in motion results in us receiving back more than what we gave away. While we're giving away our checks and money and deeds of trust, precious gems, whatever it is you're going to put in there, send out the love. setting law in motion to receive it back. Send out the peace, setting law in motion to receive it back. Send out that sense of faith and trust that the universe supports us every step of the way, that we are held in the arms of love, and that all is well. And so, doing a 5-step spiritual mind treatment, I know that the infinite is manifest as every moment, every experience, every event, and that each of us are created out of it. It is what we are. We are made out of prosperity itself. We are infinite beyond our wildest dreams. We are wealthy and rich and always have more than enough. Knowing that whatever God is, we are. We claim that life filled with blessings, filled with riches, filled with joy of all kinds, right here and right now, and with amazing gratitude for every one of the blessings that we already have, and for knowing that these blessings continue to grow. We simply release this treatment into the mind of God, into the heart of God, and into the body of God, knowing that it is all God, as together we say, and so it is. Hold the energy in the room. Hold the energy, don't talk. Just get it. We are creating. We are reaching out into thin air, we are creating. We are opening up, we are letting spirit move through us, we are creating. We are holding an image and letting life reflect it back to us. We are creating. We are creating all that we could ever want and more. We are creating lives that are rich and full and beautiful and joyous, where we have houses and travel and bank accounts and portfolios and people to manage all of the abundance and prosperity that we have, where money seeks us out and finds us. We are creating because we are consciously thinking the thoughts, Jane, that sets law in motion. So right here and right now, I know that everything in these baskets is blessed, that we are all blessed, because we are all of spirit. All of the prosperity that ever has been and ever will be is manifest in our lives now. I know that as we gave this gift, that which we are, that amazing spiritual being, went out into the universe with our giving. It fills up this room from the floor to the ceiling and all between the walls. This air is rich and blessed with God as us. And I know that that movement of spirit wakes us up to that which we already are, to know the truth of who we are, to open up and allow all that life has for us to manifest in our lives right here and right now. And I know that it does that for us and for every other being on this planet, for everyone who has ever been here, everyone who is here tonight, and everyone yet to come. And so it is. I love you. Have a wonderful week.
Yay. Sunday.